Hello, everybody. Um, Today, what I want to do is to talk about what's called steampunk. Steampunk, I suppose, is sort of using a somewhat archaic technology in a modern age, and it's sort of like the whole computer world was never developed. Silicon, all of the sort of the kind of interfacing we have, and it was done um, with sort of these old-fashioned tools, exactly the kind we have in our watches. And so that's what I thought would be sort of interesting to talk about today. Hey, Dominic, how you doing? I'm everyone right now. Oh, so what's up, Dom? What's new and good? Hi, Belina. Is that right? How you doing, Monsieur de Chanel? Yeah, it's great to see you too. Um, anyway, so I there was this article in the New Yorker I was reading. Hey neighbor, hey rancher, happy birthday yesterday, rancher. Um, so anyway, so I thought today would be this. We might take a look at some of the things that make up this archaic of technology and what we can do with it. One of the things that the article had about steampunk saving us from, I think it was artificial intelligence or something like that. But anyway, one of the things they said is that I really liked is that our mechanical watches have autonomy. They gave the example of a few months ago. All of the airplanes were grounded because of there was one place where the guy screwed up in the software and it screwed up scheduling. And I was thinking, hmm, if everybody had a watch, uh, a mechanical watch that wasn't connected to anything, and they say, okay, your flight leaves at 22:05. They look at their watch, and when it's 22:05, which would be, I guess, 10:05 in the evening, then the airplane takes off. No problem. Now, if another guy with another watch had it, it broke, doesn't affect all of the others. And so it sort of represents this technology represents an unconnected autonomy that we all have. So it's sort of weird. Oh, wow. Well, someone threw me a birthday stream, even though I made it abundantly clear that I was, yeah, nobody's listening to you, rancher. That's what the problem is. How could it be abundantly clear? It's sort of like you become the tree in the forest that no one hears. That'll teach you. Uh, Anyone else getting excited for GPHG? Yeah, me. I'm going. Uh, anyway, um, so I want to talk about steampunk. Well, what I thought I would start with. Hi, Arnold. What I thought it'd be sort of fun to start with is are really the 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 entire components of what we're dealing with. Hi, 9/11. Um, Hang on a second. Let me open this thing up. Window. The whole show is run by this mainspring. I mean, here's this. I mean, like this is in the atomic pile. This is the gasoline tank. This is everything that provides the energy for the watch. And I thought, huh, that's pretty interesting. It was to me anyway. Uh, and so, okay, so that's the first thing. The second is um, let me see if the second, of course, is the barrel. Now, the important thing about the barrel is that that's sort of the first thing that that the mainspring turns. It it I don't know if working the word really turns is the correct one, but it rather applies torque to it. And so that's the second thing that we have in our okay, a second. In our sort of our the whole workings that we have. Now, the, probably if we're at all familiar, and perhaps maybe of a certain age, maybe if we're all at least as old as Rancher, you remember having toys that you wind up the toy and it ran on a spring power. Okay, so we're doing the same thing. So that's the first part. Now, imagine this. Here you have somebody who gets a bright idea that, well, we're going to have some mechanism that we're going to tell time with. And, what do you want to work it with? Well, there are ones that work with water, and there are all kinds of things. And the one that worked with a spring seemed to be a pretty good idea. So the spring with the barrel and so forth for providing the torque. Now, the next element of it was how do you regulate the time? Hang on a second. Let me get this up. How do you make the time? And the way to do it came up with, well, we'll have these different gears. We'll have one gear for the hours, one for the minutes, and one for the seconds, and then we'll line them all up, and then we'll release them and at a certain point, so that every second this one gets released, or every so many elements of a second this one gets released, and so this is how we're going to do it. And so what you have from here coming down through the hour, here you have the mainspring from the barrel, the gearing from the barrel, adding torque to that, which then adds torque all the way down. And then at this end, there's the escapement. Now, if you're familiar with Rube Goldberg, this looks like a Rube Goldberg kind of contraption. I mean, why would you do anything this way? Okay. Now, the point is that on the one hand, it looks like I said, Rube Goldberg. You got all of these gears, you got the mainspring and so forth. And this is essentially what we've got in our watches. I don't care if it's an expensive one or a cheap one. That's what for the most part, we're dealing with. Okay, so then we have to have a way to time it to be released so that the wheel of the second hand can be released. It affects the minute hand or minute wheel, which affects the hour wheel in terms of being released. Okay, so then we have this part. Come on, get up here. Okay, so moving right along. Okay, so here we have this gadget here. Okay, now again, when we're thinking about the thing, is it's we go back to Rube Goldberg with all of his this crazy stuff, and we got the pallet. Here's the pallet fork, and then there are two pallets, one for releasing and one for locking. And then you have a pivot here, and you have two banking pins so that the fork doesn't go too far. And then you have this. This is the balance pivot here, and then this is sort of the center right here of the balance wheel. Okay, so the idea is that how do you turn it? How do you release it? I mean, what makes that happen? So let me go on, moving right along. Uh, then we come to, and I know you guys know all of this, but I just want to talk about it. Here you have this balance wheel with a hairspring, and essentially what happens, it swings roughly around 270 degrees one way, and then swings 270 degrees the other way. Well, how is the swing possible? The tip of the pallet fork is kicks one way, and then the pressure coming all the way down from the mainspring, the torque, will one of the pallets is releases it, and so it jumps forward, kicks the pallet, kicks the pallet fork. The pallet fork in turn uh, kicks the balance wheel. The hairspring tightens up, and then it throws it around 270 degrees, and then springs back, because when you tighten up a spring, goes that. And so you have this. Here you have this swinging movement, and essentially what you're dealing with goes back even further to the pendulum. Originally, this is you had here you have the pallet fork, and you have the anchor here, and the anchor is locking, unlocking, locking, unlocking, going like this. And here's the escape wheel, the same thing that you have on the watch, except you have this big swinging pendulum. Well, when they thought, well, in order to make this portable and put it inside of a watch, how are we going to do that with the pendulum? Well, the balance wheel, if you just take an arm of the balance wheel and don't look at the rest of the balance wheel and just look at an arm, the arm's going to go swinging 270 degrees. So really what the balance wheel is the form of it's a form of a pendulum. Now, all of this is, you look at that thing, at least I do, and I think, my God, how did they figure that stuff out? I mean, like, of all of the ways, if you have nothing, if you're starting with carte blanche, and you look at this, and and we wear these little autonomous machines. Nothing affects this. My wife's smartwatch and my iPhone that I often set my watch with is not autonomous. It is connected up to some atomic clock somewhere, so we end up with this quote perfect time. So anyway, so I just and the article that I had mentioned, I don't know if any of the rest of you subscribe or even read the New Yorker. But the New Yorker had a very interesting thing. And it started off with this guy who bought his wife a watch with a hand date, and he was, from, I think it was from the 90s that he got her one. Forgot who it was by, but anyway, so he's talking about this, and he's all of these things that with it indeed almost defines steampunk. And so anyway, I thought, well, this is we're sort of playing with it. Uh, my introduction to steampunk actually was in the original movie called the original version of the movie called Dune, and they had all of this steampunk looking stuff running all of these interstellar rocket ships and stuff. Okay. All right. Let's see. Um, okay. All right. Happy birthday again to Rancher. He got the Spock in the box. Uh, no, uh, different Goldberg. This is my dentist is named Goldberg, and so is Rube Goldberg. Two of my favorite Goldbergs. uh, hi, Lee. How you doing? Yeah. Yeah. Every birthday, Dominic, is that we cheated death again. We used to say that every time we landed a plane. Oh, we cheated death. Hi, Watch Millie Do. Watch Mike Do. How you doing? How are things in Phoenix? Not too many people alive that remember mine. Yeah. Okay. The long Swiss winters. This is something I I'm wondering, when we go to Switzerland in about a week from now, um, we're going to I don't know if we're going into a climate that's any warmer or colder than New England, to tell you the truth. I've been looking at the, temperatures and, at least Geneva, I mean, it's not up in the Alps. It's just sort of like an extension of the French territory in that area. We'll see. I guess Louis Breguet was a steampunker. Yeah, right, Michael. Exactly. He and Harrison and but of all of the things with 'cause I spent a big hunk of my life writing computer codes and writing programs, and actually, I even did some little computer engineering, uh, putting together some stuff for a robot, and that was all fun. It really was. I got to admit it. Had a lot of fun doing that. But I don't know, there's more and more things are taking over that they've got control and you don't. That's why I sort of, throw a not happy with the whole thing with silicon hairspring. You lose control. You have no control over that. My new car, it's got so much technology in it. My God, I'm driving along and it shows me this different speed limits. I don't always pay attention that I should. I take the speed limits as suggestions or like I can judge better than the speed limit because I'm here now. But not my car. My car, I'm driving along, I'm going uh 40 miles an hour and hit a 30-mile-an-hour zone, and I got it on cruise control. The old thing it takes it down 10 miles an hour, and I got to kick it back again because it's like a really smart car. When they were adjusting all of the gizmos at the dealership, my wife was with me, and she make it the safest one. In other words, take the control away from the driver and give it to this this thing. Okay. There you go, Dom. Yeah, Rancher. I tell you, they can't even balance balls on their nose anymore. Oh, man. Oh, was Ruth Goldberg, a wrestler too? Yeah, she was. Oh. Oh, man. Okay, I sort of had my piece, but I thought that, we're really we've become sort of the last steampunkers. I'm trying because everything else my first car was it was a 1955 Volkswagen with I had stick shifts well into the 90s, but, boy, you could control that sucker, and then when it ran out of gas, it didn't even have a gas gauge. There was a little, like a I don't know, a kick lever that and so I was driving along, all of a sudden, it would run out of gas, the engine would go sputter, and I'd kick it down, and it would release the reserve fuel, and then I had to hot foot it to a gas station. I mean, very strong relationship between you and your car. This car is sort of like it probably knows my name and knows it knows everything. But it's sort of fun in its own way. But I was thinking, what other actual steampunk is around, and what makes it interesting. I to me is that how all of these gizmos that we have in our watches, the coming down, the whole power train to it is like, sort of a tree hugger's dream. There's the only energy is the tension of the spring, which is to me is that is sort of a wild thing. You said your dentist was Goldberg. I kept my thoughts to myself. Thank you very much. And it's a she. My 83 911 European version is quite steampunkish by today's standards. I've had it since 1988. Dearly love it. I don't blame you. Yeah. 911. Oh, I see. Michael, when I think steampunk movies, I think the original Wild Wild West. Yes. Yes, Michael, that's another great example. Yes, I'd forgotten about that, but that's another great one. Most inventions were made for convenience, making making it easy to speed things up. Yeah, I know. I agree with that, and I think now, but there was something about how so much of the artificial intelligence they hired a bunch of these guys from Kenya. I don't know why Kenya. And so they're working on. I guess there was some very intense work to make things match up somehow with what the AI got. Right now, let me give you an example. This is so weird. Um, on my videos, I'll get a comment on the video, and I'll read it and respond to it. So somebody says, "Oh, that's what about this? You didn't think about that." And I thought, "Oh, thanks. I'll think about it next time." But now there's an automatic button I push, and it does. I mean, not just a little one like "wowza" or something like that, but some whole sentences even with my signature, and it figured out how to sign things like I do. During the pandemic, my I started signing off as "take care" simply because we were in the middle of a pandemic. But I sort of kept it ever since then. So now the AI in the comments says, comes back with something, you push a button. I don't know. So what I did is that I changed all of my comments myself, and then the AI figured it out. I got you, Bill. Like, go away. I got a 19th century mantel clock. My ancestors brought with them in a covered wagon to Oklahoma. That is steampunk. Indeed, it is. Remember the light button on the floorboard? Oh, yeah, the dimmer button. Yeah, Lee. You're going along and you got your high beams and you see a Mack truck coming at you and you're stomping all over the place trying to find that button on the bottom so you can dim your lights. And these days, never-ending AI, AC3 has become even more important. The only solution we have to AI is natural stupidity rather than artificial stupidity. Hey, 911. I have two Vienna regulators, C1840 and another English pendulum regulator. Wow, more steampunk explains that I love. Yeah, those are great examples of it. There's the thing about a watch, a wristwatch, is that what we just went through from the mainspring through the barrel through the gear train and so forth, we can understand it, excuse me, from soup to nuts. We understand the entire process. My God, after spending years with computers, I can understand one part of it. I spent, God, I'll tell you, there was this one book on design patterns. And design patterns, there was one that was published in 1995. There was an earlier one from 1975. Well, what I found out was that was really hard to understand. And once I understood it, I mean, it took me a couple of years of rereading that blasted tome so I could get it, so I could really understand it. And and what happened? I was hired as a consultant to do some work in New York. So I go to New York and explaining these two guys I was supposed to work with. I started talking about the use of design patterns and how it would, for change and so forth. And so these guys take off on something on the oldest version, the 1975 version, which was sort of a one-trick pony. I forgot what they called it. But they would go, oh, so that was what you meant. And they said, no, that wasn't what I meant at all. It's much more interesting and much more complex since that original one. And they wouldn't listen. They just off they went. But the I can understand it insofar as that, yeah, well, I guess when they were in computer school or something, that was what they taught, but things have changed. Now, this was in 2010 or sometime around then from a book that was about 15 years old at the time, but it was brand new to some people, and I think in a way the the basics of what we have with the mechanical watch. The only thing that's left is nitpicking. we have a lot of that. How you doing, Abdul? Oh wow, Dominic, they had a starter button on the floor. Oh man, my grandfather had this old car with had a running board on it, which I just thought was the coolest car anyone could have. Oh God, Lee, I tell you, uh, of the first 8 books that I published were done on a typewriter, and the 8th one was I'd used the advance to buy a computer, and finally got a word processing. had a heck of a time with the editor trying to understand what the how come I was using that. But it was like that's one thing I'll say about computers. Man, whatever else they've done, they really help editing. Indiana. Remember the ding. Running boards. Yeah. Jesus Christ. I think everybody else is, what are these old farts talking about? Yeah, yeah, but, I tell you, I've seen some of these newer trucks, and some of these giant SUVs, they now have running boards again. They don't call them that. I think they call them steps or something. But they the other thing well, but I guess the point that we have with mechanical watches is that we do have autonomy. There's not much I would do to mess with one of these, especially a really expensive one. But maybe I'll get my toothpick out and I can go in and adjust the regulator, or get a little tiny screwdriver and adjust the. This one's got a swan neck on it. Oh, it doesn't have a swan neck. It's got something else. It's got this screw, and then you have the regulator arm, and you turn the screw, and the thing slides back and forth. It's really, really a cool one. I had been attracted to Breguet's 10 hertz classique model, but in the last week's discussion, you triggered my steampunk side when you produce no need for all of that. Thank you. Yeah, I don't know. It's like there's this is the whole thing. The whole kit and caboodle of high horology was a reaction to they had to figure out a way to keep people buying Swiss watches, and that was what high horology came from. But the quartz watch, they never were able to get something as accurate as a quartz. That thing has a frequency of something like 3,200 hertz, or some just incredible number that, what's the point? We're trying to sort of to chase it. Cuneiform. Lee has a small manual typewriter. One of my aunts got for a gift in college in 1956. Wow. I had when I started college, they got an electric one. They had electricity back then. Your first automatic watch. Yeah, Breguet made it. I'm trying to think. First automatic watch. Automatic watches are okay, because they're still part of that whole. There's simply adding a rotor to wind your watch. I still like hand wound better, but still, automatics are another one of those neat things. Yeah, Michael, that's true. Yeah. Oh, definitely, Dominic. I think that's right. There's no humans involved. You stick it into a watchmaking machine and it you put in the parts, or you just put in something. Throw in a battery and the first automatic watch was Rolex. You're nuts. Good God, who told you that? Come on. No need for that Rolex fanboy nonsense. It was by Abraham Breguet, for God's sakes. Uh, it sounds like the old Khrushchev Russians and the old USSR, everything they invented. Nah, come on, you guys. Uh-oh, it's frying pan time. God, I thought we'd get through a whole thing without mentioning Rolex, but I guess hope springs eternal. Hey, you guys. Oh, by the way, I love Rolex because Rolex didn't roll over, even though they helped produce the silicone hairspring. They didn't use it. They're okay in my book. They didn't have quartz when I was young, so I wouldn't know. We had a water clock. Anyway, guys, gotta go. Again, happy birthday, Rancher, and many more to come. Take care, guys. Oh, this afternoon, Rancher, I could help you coming up with a good topic. Today was I read that article in the New Yorker. If you subscribe to the New Yorker, check out that article on Steampunk. Take care.